Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on episodes 54, 55, and 56 of Ace of the Diamond, and I'm really excited. Yeah, this game has been crazy so far. I did not expect May to come out like he did and give up a run that early, but you know, it's 2-1, right? It's 2-1 in Inishiro's favor. And I'm terrified because this game has been so intense. We're 5 innings in and it's 2-1. And Rio's miss and Furuya's exhaustion were a bad combination in that last inning that led to Inishiro getting those runs and just quickly showed just how the tiniest little thing, the tiniest little crack Inishiro will expose. And so May can be their biggest detriment on Inishiro because if he gets too flustered or too pressured, he can make a mistake. And I'm glad that we show that May is human. He can make mistakes and he can get out and things. He's not some inhuman monster, but he's dangerous and that's a problem. So yeah, I'm terrified of this game because as some of people have commented both on Patreon and on Twitter, or on YouTube and Patreon and on Twitter, I want Sato to win really badly, but it's kind of like Ray said in the last set of episodes, it's a 40-60 set. It's in Inishiro's favor. So I just don't want them to slip up anymore. And we're changing to Tamba pitching, and Inishiro knows Tamba, so I'm hoping that the forkball, he can bring that out and kind of switch it up and throw them off their game, and at least use that to surprise them. And then I know that they're saving Sawamura. They said they're going to do Sawamura and then finish it with Kawakami. So I'm just waiting for Sawamura to come onto the field, onto the mound, and for him and May to confront one another, because I don't know, May takes his opponents very seriously, and he took Furuya very seriously, and Furuya was like oblivious to May. He's like, I'm just trying to pitch and do my job. And I feel like Sawamura would kind of be in the same boat, only way more energetic about it, and so I think that would frustrate May as well. So I feel like May is going to be extremely frustrated no matter who comes out to pitch against him, because he's very competitive. So yeah, I've got my notes ready. Got my pen. I am ready to go tonight and watch me some Ace of the Diamond. So we're going to watch episodes 54, 55, and 56. Episode 54, Entrusted Faith and the Courage to Perform. I'm assuming entrusting the faith for Tamba and the team, but that could go either way. That could go to Inishiro or it could go to Tamba and Sato. So I'm just really nervous about this whole game because we've built up all these stakes. We built everything up to being the final qualifier match. And I want Sato to win, but my heart's like, oh, they could lose. And I'm going to be devastated. Because like some of you have noted, I was thinking of volleyball and Haikyuu. I'm like, oh, well, the third years, they could just come back and play like the third years did for Haikyuu and volleyball. But not in baseball, and that's really sad. And the worst part is, as some of you pointed out, this is summer, and the terms, the new years start in spring. So that means that the first years will still be first years into the fall before spring even hits. So they'll have to deal with that, and I'm not ready. Not ready for it, but what can we do? So let's start this, shall we? Let's get into this. I'm excited. I hope y'all are too. So we're going to start Ace of the Diamond, episode 54, here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Oh my gosh. This is amazing. I love this match. I love it so much. Getting me right in the feels. Getting me right in the feels. That strikeout was everything I wanted and more. It was everything I wanted because it's like the first time Sawamura has been completely confident through every pitch. No hesitation, completely confident, just boom, boom, boom. And it was against May. If ever there was a time to do that, it was then. These episodes, like, emotional roller coaster. This whole game has been an emotional roller coaster, but it's so neck and neck. I mean, I'm glad we ended on a high note with these episodes. I truly am, but I am still very worried that Sato's not going to win because it's still 3-1. They're still 2 runs down. They've got a store. The only thing I can think of is that May is going to be super pissed with Sawamura that he struck out and he was the third out. and they had 2 on base. So he's going to be pissed off that they struck out, and that may cause him to make some mistakes pitching, or it's going to make him be super frustrated and just pitch the hell out of it, and then that's going to be it, right? So it's like one or the other. There's no middle ground. Oh my God, that was amazing. That was great. So man, these episodes, if you asked me which of the 2 I think would be the ace after Tamba, I don't foresee Kawakami being the ace next year. I don't. Kawakami is not a leadoff pitcher. He's very much the cleanup, the guy that like comes in as reserve. So it would be Furuya or Sawamura. I would go with Sawamura. After this set of episodes, I would go with Sawamura only because Furuya is intense. Furuya is powerful as a pitcher. He's got more weight to his pitch, but he goes all out from the get-go, and he doesn't have his stamina built up. Whereas Sawamura has that stamina. The guy's been like screaming the last 8 innings, and he has the kind of energy to do that. Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. He'll be fine. But I think that Sawamura just proved in this one out that he's going to be the ace. It's just a matter of time. Because that fist bump between him and Tamba, that was everything. That was all I needed and more. Like that, just him saying, "You're the ace now." And they told him that when they started the game. They're like, whoever's on the mound is the ace. And you got to go in with that mentality. And Sawamura went in with that. You cannot tell me that there is not a triangle with Mei and me. You could tell me that you don't ship Miyuki and Sawamura, and I'd be like, okay, fine. You can't tell me there wasn't something between Mei and Miyuki. You can't. There's no way. And both. Here's the thing. Sato's not in on it. They don't get it, but all of Inashiro is in on it. They all know that Mei had a thing for Miyuki. They all had it. I'm sorry. Oh my God. Carlos sauntering up there with his hips swaying, being like, "I can see why Mei wanted you." It was like, amazing. And he's number 8. He's my lucky number. So I love Carlos. Him in these set of episodes, I really come to like Carlos's character. He's such a fun character. I love it. We'll talk more about him, but Tamba, I felt for Tamba because Tamba's really worked hard to become the reliable ace of the team. He really has. And it made me sick when May's like, "Oh, there's the Tamba we're familiar with." So it's like Tamba, he's not always been confident with himself or had belief in his own abilities. And that nervousness and lack of confidence has caused him to make mistakes and caused him to beat himself up about it. Kind of like Sawamura at the beginning of this series. Sawamura very much mirrored Tamba at the beginning of this series. He let that one home run from Raichi like take his whole mentality out. And Tamba's the same way. So it's nice to see that even third years can get... I think the lesson in this episode was that even third years, they're not perfect. Third years have flaws, even though they're built up to be the end-all be-all player. Third years still have flaws. And we saw that with our third years in this set of episodes, especially with Tamba and especially with Rio. We'll talk about Rio. But the idea of them being like getting over your fear and being bold. And I feel so bad for Tamba because he's worked so hard and he got to this point where he was reliable and able to lead his team. But that injury he suffered way back at the beginning of the series, it's like come back to haunt him. And what I appreciate about this is that Kateoka gave him a chance, but then he was wary. And then as soon as there was the minor slip up, he's like, "No, you're out." And I appreciate that. Here's the thing. One thing I get kind of frustrated about with sports anime is that my biggest frustration with Slam Dunk is that the coach was like, even if the players were about to pass out and die, the coach is like, "Just power through." And I'm like, that sounds well and good to let them power through. But when you have other players you can put in, I'm like, that's a problem. I mean, like, I get in some sports anime, like in Run with the Wind, they really didn't have a choice. They only had 10 runners and they had to do, I won't spoil anything about Run with the Wind, but they had to make decisions because they had no other option. It was either forfeit and quit or do it. And it's like, and the player was well aware of the consequences. But I get frustrated when sports anime treats it like there is no consequence. They're like, "Oh, just keep playing through it. You'll be fine." But in this series, they're like, "Yeah, no, as we've seen with Chris, there's consequence if you get injured. You don't want to ruin yourself, right? And Tamba, I feel so bad for him because I feel like that his injury is causing other things to kind of snowball around him even when he doesn't want to, because he only pitched 3 innings. He was supposed to close out the game, but it did not happen. So, and it's so sad because we had that in episode 54, I'm looking at my notes, and in episode 54, we had Tamba with the hat that said believe. That was so sweet. It was like, oh, and that's been this whole set of episodes, is having faith in your teammates and yourself, and knowing that if you can't get the job done, your teammates are going to be right there right by. That's been the message of this set of episodes, is to have faith in your own abilities, but also know that your teammates are there if something happens. We saw that with Sawamura coming up with Tamba. We saw that with Kuramochi coming up behind Rio. We've seen that these players can have faith in each other and themselves, and it's fine. And that little line where Furuya was like, when Furuya's like, it's okay, you got this. And he's like, good luck. And it's like, Furuya's grown so much. I love Furuya saying that. He's like, it's okay. You can go out there and do it, but don't worry, I'll take your place if you need me to. It's like, aw. I love that Furuya's grown so much as a character and like embraced the Nakama. I love that so much. And then the hat. I like that Kataoka and Kunitomo, Kataoka is like, be aggressive and have faith in your abilities. And then Kunitomo's telling his players, he's like, don't underestimate them. Because that's the one thing with May. That's one thing I've noticed about May. May is very cocky. And he's like, and during that video where they were showing Sawamura's pitch, he was just sitting there pouting like, oh, he's not special. And May very much underestimates his opponents a lot. And May thinks he's better than all of them, which, to be fair, May has the talent to back it up. But as we've seen with Furuya and with Sawamura, you can't underestimate Sato. That's your first mistake. Oh, we get to episode 56. Oh my god. So, episode 55. What I like about this episode, the Strong Men episode, is that we've not really seen a lot of the catchers in this series on the opponent's team really have a spotlight. I mean, we've seen them make commentary and work with their pitchers, but we've not really seen them to the degree, my dog's like scratching behind me. We've not really seen to the extent the catchers working like Harada, like Masa-san. Masa, I really love his character in this. He's kind of like an anchor for May, and him and May kind of have similar mentalities, but Harada's much more realistic and grounded, and May's kind of like chaotic gremlin. But I love that Harada is doing the same type of strategizing like Miyuki and Chris do. I love that there's that the notion that, yes, all catchers on all teams are the ones making those control plays, and Harada is no exception. And I love that about him. I like that we're getting to see a catcher actually in action like Miyuki is. That's really, really cool. But I love that line from him at the start of episode 55 when he's like, we're going to crush their efforts to turn the game around. We're going to destroyer of dreams. It's not just May that wants to be the destroyer of dreams. Harada wants to lead that ship too, and I really like it. Okay, so Rio. I'm so frustrated with Rio, and I loved Kuramochi, MVP of episode 55. Kuramochi, damn, he saved that whole game. He may have saved the whole game. If Sato pulls it off and wins it, I'm going to name Kuramochi as like MVP, because here's my thing, and we've talked about this in the comments on both Patreon and YouTube. We've had a big old debacle about Rio, and I love our comments about it. I love our debates, because it's like, yes, my thing is with Rio is an amazing player in his position. And I get the argument that there's not really another player that's as good as Rio in that spot when he's on his game. Totally get that. And I think it was a good idea. I think it's good that Rio told someone, because like in Chris's case, Chris never told someone about his injury, and it just got worse and worse to the point where it was detrimental and he couldn't go back to playing. It had gotten so out of hand that he couldn't go back to that place where he was. And so I'm glad that Rio told Kuramochi, because he didn't lie to him. I was afraid when that injury first came up that Kuramochi was going to get lied to, and Rio was going to be like, nah, it's fine, there's no big deal. And Kuramochi would be like, and that would psych him out the whole game. So I'm glad that Rio told him about the injury. My thing is that Rio put all the pressure on Kuramochi to tell the coach. And I don't think he should have done that. I think Rio should have told Kataoka, because here's the thing. Kataoka, we have established this whole series, Kataoka has faith in his players. He lets his players make bold moves. I think at the end of this game, no matter what the outcome is, I want Kataoka to go up to Ryo and be like, why didn't you tell me about this injury? Because Kataoka knows. Oh, he knows. There was a moment where he looked over at them. It's like, he knows something's up with Ryo. He's been watching this whole game standing up, watching every player and every play. Kataoka, he knows that something's wrong. But he has faith in his players. And so he let Kuramochi talk to Ryo. And when that whole move where Kuramochi made the play at the base and got that guy out, and Kataoka's like, okay, you made the right call. I'm trusting you. My trust is wisely put to you. But my whole thing is, I think it was wrong of Ryo to make Kuramochi make the call. I think Ryo should have gone to Kataoka and told him about the injury and said, what do you want to do, coach? And I think Kataoka would have let him stay in the game, but would have been like, if it gets bad, I'm going to take you out. And I think that's what it would have happened. Because that's exactly what happened with Tamba. Kataoka knew about Tamba's injury. He knew about this cramp and stuff, but he let him play. And then when he couldn't, he took him out to help save himself from making the injury worse. And I think that's what he would have done with Ryo. But I think Ryo was afraid with this being the night before the final game. And they're teenagers. Yeah, a lot of people are like, well, they're high school kids. Yeah, so it's perfectly understandable why Ryo did what he did. I don't like that he put that pressure on Kuramochi to make the decision for him. I don't like that because that's your friend. And it's like, I wouldn't tell my friend if I had an injury, be like, well, you make the call for me. That's not a good thing to do. But you can't go back now. So I think either way, Kataoka is going to approach Ryo about this at the end and be like, you made a mistake. You should have told me and I would have kept you in the game unless it got too bad. But now, I mean, Ryo's missed a play. And then if Ryo had missed this one, the game would have been over. 2 runs, been a done deal. So thank God Kuramochi was there to catch that and back him up. And I love that moment between them where they bumped gloves and it was so good. But I'm like Kuramochi, if you hadn't been there, oh man. And now Haruichi knows because Haruichi's caught on too. He's been like, Haruichi's noticed that something's up too. So it's adding more pressure. So that communication is really important. And I think Ryo should have had a little more faith in his coach, that his coach would have let him play. But hindsight's 20/20, right? But what a save. What a save. Oh my God. Ha. Ha 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 ha. So I put a note down in here that the take your spot line from Furuya, Tamba, and Mei. So Here's the thing. Tamba has faith. Furuya and Tamba. Here's the thing. Mei is jealous of Furuya and Sawamura. So jealous. So jealous of other pitchers, right? He's so jealous. Tamba's not jealous of his fellow players. Tamba has a healthy rivalry with Furuya. And I love that moment where Furuya's like doing the arm movement and like doing the play. And he's like, that pitch that Furuya made back to third base to get that out, that was amazing. That was so good. And it was like Furuya reminding everybody, being like, hey, I'm a pitcher out here. Can do. And then that look that him and Tamba give each other. And Tamba and Furuya have like a healthy rivalry, like amongst the team. Tamba's like, I know that you can pitch really good and you can take my spot on the mound, but I'm not going to give it to you. But thanks anyway. May's really jealous. And I feel like if that had happened and Mei was the pitcher, Mei would have thrown a pouty fit about it. He would have been like, well, I'm still a better pitcher. Or something like that. I love Mei. And Mei's cockiness is part of his endearment to me. I'm like, yes, please. But it's really good. And so then the coach, Kunitomo, cracking his neck and being like, don't give them a fighting chance. Here's the thing. That was well and good and all, but putting that pressure on Harada, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because it put pressure on Harada and them that they're like, okay, keep the pressure on. But then it also had the effect where, I mean, Yuki got so close. If Carlos hadn't caught that, Yuki was so damn close. And I was like, you're getting better. I love that Kataoka doesn't say a word. He gives all the faith in the team. And like I said in the reaction, Kunitomo's kind of in that middle ground where he gives advice, he puts pressure on, but he also lets the players make their own moves. So I think that's good. And then I really didn't think about it until this episode, but Kataoka, way back when they were facing Yakushi, I thought that Kataoka and Todoroki were very different, but they're really not. They're very similar. They both have a lot of faith in their players. Todoroki's just more vocal about it. And Kataoka's very quiet about it. So that's really cool. I like that. But Carlos Kamiya, right up there with God and Buddha, as May says, standing naked in his window right before the game. I love Carlos. And I really love that they question, they're like, oh, is he an exchange student? And they're like, oh no, he's Japanese. And I like that it's Shunshin that says it doesn't matter. I love that. I absolutely love that. They're like, oh wait, he's Japanese? What? And Shunshin's like, it doesn't matter what he is. He's a good player. Because Shunshin's the exchange student. So he kind of knows what they're implying. They're implying that Carlos is really good because he's like an exchange student and it's exotic. But Shunshin's like, nah, he's a good baseball player. Doesn't matter where he's from. And I was like, Anya, way to go. Way to go, Shunshin. I love it. I love it. So yeah, there's 2 more innings. 2 more innings when we got into episode 56. We're getting down to the wire. It's still 3-1. It's still in Ishiro's favor. I'm still really nervous. But I like that we got that call back to Sakurazawa, because at this point in the game when Sakurazawa was facing Inishiro, it was like they were starting to lose hope, right? They were starting to lose hope. Things weren't looking good. And Akira was like, it would be easy now for them to lose hope. But Sawamura is the soul of Sato. He is the soul of the team. And him being like, don't give up, guys. And when Jun's like, man, did we really look that blue when we came out here that Sawamura is cheering us on? Like, really? I love that. I love that Zaizen too. Zaizen's rooting for Sato because he's like, I'm rooting for Chris's team. I love that Zaizen's sitting there rooting for him. And Zaizen at the end being like, I mean, Sawamura was brave enough to face me, so he can't be that bad. It's like, what a backhanded compliment when Zaizen's like pumping up his own ego about giving Sawamura a compliment. I absolutely love it. But man, Tamba, and they established it's a leg cramp. I thought he got hit again when they panned to him, but he went to pick up a bunt and he got a leg cramp. It reminds me okay, so we talk about Haikyuu a little bit. It reminds me a lot of Camo Medai's game against Karasuno. Reminds me a lot of that game, because in that game, spoilers, it's manga spoilers, but in that game one of the players gets a cramp and it's a bad deal. That's all I'll say. There's a character in Haikyuu that during the Camo Medai game gets a leg cramp and it's a bad deal. That's all I'll say. That's it. So, but it was reminding me of that. But yeah, at that point when you take Tamba out, and I like the Furia still back there like put me back in, coach. Kawakami was not the decision. They went with Sawamura because Sawamura, proven his reliability. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Carlos started us out in this being like, Carlos started us out saying, oh, no wonder May wanted you. This was the icing on the cake. The icing on the ex-May cake is whenever, and I love that. I love that Tamba was like, you're the ace now, and gave him the ball, and it was like, and then Miyuki comes over and he like bumps him in the chest, and he's like, let's do this, partner. And it's so wholesome, and you pan over to May, and he's like, excuse me? You're bringing out a first year to face me? And I love that he's like, do people not fear me? Am I not good enough? And it's like, oh, because May's so proud. He has so much ego. And when he's like, you're bringing out a first year pitcher to face me? Excuse me? And Miyuki is bumping your chest? Excuse me? You guys get along? Excuse me? That look. And then that line, is he good or not? Sent me. Absolutely sent me. I freaking loved that. Is he good or not? Because that's the thing. That's the thing about Sawamura. That's been the question the entire series so far. Is Sawamura good or not? He's either on a roll or he's a wild card. But Miyuki, the 3 inside pitches, like that was chef's kiss of the morale momentum breaker. And Sawamura has no reason to fear May because he's never faced May before as a batter or anything. He just is like, oh yeah, he's a pitcher, cool. Right? No pressure. And then yeah, oh my God, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So the question is, Sato has 2 more times to go up to bat. That is terrifying. They have 2 more times to go up to bat and that's it. And it's either going to go one or 2 ways. It could go one of 3 ways. Either May is going to be so pissed off from this out that he is going to go furiously all out on all of them and strike them out instantly. And then we're down to one more chance of the offense, and Sawamura's got to keep it up. Or it's going to go where May gets really flustered and gives up a run or two, and that could happen. Or it could go in the middle and things just kind of like go crazy and we don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know, y'all. I don't know. But this was insanity. This was crazy. This whole thing was crazy. I loved this so much. But I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know. I'm so excited though. This game has been so awesome. Like, we've had like 7 episodes devoted to this game so far, and it's been so good. And I'm like, is this game going to lead us the rest of the season? I'm thinking it will. I'm thinking it's either going to be the last game, or we're going to get into like the first game of Nationals, or lead up into Nationals, one of the two. But oh my God. And here's the thing that I'm hoping for. Even if Sato loses, I don't want them to lose. It's still 60-40 to me. I still think Inashiro might win this, because I just think they might. But even if Inashiro wins, what I want more than anything, as I look directly into the camera to tell you all, is if Inashiro wins and May looks over to Miyuki and he's like, oh, don't you wish that you had come to Inashiro now, because we're going to Nationals and you and your third years aren't? I want Miyuki to like put his arm around Sawamura or something and be like, nah, we're going to come back and beat you next year. It'll be fine. They were just first years. I want something like that, and for the smile to get wiped off of May's face. I want that. I want the X-angst. I am living for it in this series. I love it so much. We don't get a lot of shipping of man-on-man in sports anime, but you cannot tell me that May does not have a thing out for Miyuki and this whole vibe. You can't. Sorry, don't believe you. Inashiro's all on it. Shirakawa's jealous. It's all there. Carlos is eating it up. You can't tell me it's not there. Don't believe you. But this was so good. This is so good. So yeah, I'm so curious to know your thoughts down below. I am over the moon. Nervous as hell about the next episode, but coming out strong, Sawamura. I'm proud of my boy. I'm proud of our boy. He's come so far, and I cannot wait to see what happens. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episodes 57, 58, and 59 of Ace of the Diamond. Bye.